You're back with us on a perfect day in the Riviera for the Monaco Grand Prix. If you can hear a thumping sound, do not adjust your sets. It's Murray Walker's heartbeat as he gears up for action alongside Martin Brundle. Murray, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Jim. Well, this is the time my mouth goes dry and my heart starts to beat like a trip hammer. The most exciting place in Formula One is about to erupt again. And if you wondered what happened to Martin Brundle's pit walk, the man who turned him off, quite literally, was Formula One's prankster Gerhard Berger, the man who said to Ayrton Senna, "Is this your briefcase, Ayrton?" "Yes, it is," and he threw it out of the helicopter. And now he is the head man on the motorsport side of BMW, taking a very close interest in what goes on here. He's got his yacht here. And Michael Schumacher there, sitting in second position on the grid. Now, let me just make this utterly clear. The Sainte-Devote corner, which is the first right-hander after the start, is many ways the most demanding and certainly the most spectacular corner in Formula One, and we stand here and we hope and we pray that there is not a coming together, as there has been so many times in the past. Everybody is jostling for position, knowing that it's very, very difficult, not impossible, but very, very difficult to pass here at Monaco. And if you can get as clear a track as possible between you and the Hotel de Paris left-hander as you go up the hill at Beau Rivage, but at about 160 miles an hour, you're going to be in prime condition. And a man who must be hoping desperately that things go better for him here today than they did yesterday is Damon Hill, 17th on the grid, but there are the rivals. Mika Häkkinen starting from pole position for the fourth time in 4 races this year, and Michael Schumacher. It's going to be a real sprint to that first corner.
Yes, I think everybody here is very nervous of the first corner. It's a bit like Spa, the Belgian Grand Prix, but even more so. And anybody on the left-hand side of the track has definitely got a problem getting away. The car, they need to turn the car slightly. The pit straight, as we know, has got quite a curve in. You can see there in your picture. And apparently, Senna always used to say here that he either wants to be first on the grid or third on the grid, never second. And of course the two Ferraris are lining up on the outside, on the off the line, off the normal racing line, on the dirtier side of the racetrack. But remains to be seen how they get away and who's going to be the last of the late breakers into the first corner. But at the moment it seems like the pace of the first 4 are going to be very, very similar through the race.
Reminds me of the start a few years ago when David Coulthard, then in a Williams, got sandwiched between the Ferraris of Gerhard Berger and Jean Alesi and flipped up into the air.
Yes, I went underneath Coulthard's car and came out the other side and opened my eyes again, and I was in 3rd place and pretty happy about it. Unfortunately, they brought the red flags out, so didn't do me any good on that day. But all the drivers know that you've got to be extra careful into that first corner. Easy to lock the brakes, and it's really not worth trying to make too much ground in there, because it all filters in, funnels in at the last moment. The barrier comes in from the right, and it pushes the cars automatically together to the same spot. And there's been a lot of broken wings and damaged suspension wishbones over the years there.
Absolutely, and 78 laps of this demanding, twisty 2.1 mile lap here at Monaco. It's got some very slow corners. It's got the enormously fast tunnel where they go from bright sunlight into electric lighting. Come out of it at 165 miles an hour, build to 180 miles an hour, down to the chicane, and it's a very, very tiring physically and demanding circuit. If you put a wheel wrong, as Damon Hill discovered yesterday and Alex Zanardi discovered today when he went into the barrier at the right-hander out of Casino Square, they've since rebuilt his Williams, you're in real trouble. In fact, you are out of the race. So look at it there. McLaren, pole position, Häkkinen. Ferrari, 2nd position, Michael Schumacher. The 2nd McLaren, David Coulthard, 3rd on the grid. The 2nd Ferrari, Eddie Irvine, 4th.
Yes, just to remind you, of course, that Michael Schumacher changed to the spare yesterday, having crashed his main race car. And really, I guess you could call this the race car now. And he seems very happy with it. I don't know why, but you're always more nervous in Monaco as a Grand Prix driver. This seems to be the big one, the one that you all most want to win. and there's just something very challenging and very special about this place, and it gives you an added nerves, and the night before the race and leading up the big build-up to the race here, and I think there'll be some tight stomachs sitting in those racing cars, believe it or not.
So down to the Mirabeau. Look at the weather, it's marvellous. It's hardly believable because those mountains in the background were swathed in thick mist until yesterday. Mika Häkkinen turns into the Portier, followed by Michael Schumacher, who's slowing down. Now, Mika Häkkinen, as usual, from pole position, will not want to be stationary on the front row, a pole position of the grid, a second longer than he has to be. It's warm here today. The temperature is 33 degrees, the track temperature, and these engines are already very small, very light, and have very small water jackets, so they heat up very quickly indeed. So therefore Mika Häkkinen is going to stop first. We'll be hoping that the grid is all tight up behind him so that we can get away quickly for this 78-lap Monaco Grand Prix. Now they turn out of the chicane, you can see them into the Tabac, down to the swimming pool complex, and they approach that at over 100, go through it there at 100 miles an hour, back off slightly, and then they're down to the Ras Kash, the very, very slow, about 25 miles an hour right-hander, which leads into the, what is laughingly called start and finish straight. It is not at all straight. Really tense time.
Yes, you can see Häkkinen now beginning to back the field up. He won't want to sit on the line as ever any longer than he has to for all the reasons Murray's just told you. The average speed here, 87 miles an hour or something, it's already a problem to keep the cars cool because they're revving 17,000 RPM, and because they never get up to high speeds like somewhere like Hockenheim or Monza, for example. The airflow through the car is low. They'll have bigger radiators here on the cars, but overheating is a problem. It's very difficult to bring the temperatures back down on these cars once they climb too high. Here you saw Schumacher taking to the left-hand side of the track, his left, as late as possible, and now the field is quite a long way behind, actually.
Well, Mika Häkkinen ought to get away first. As you can see, he's got over a car's length advantage.
You can see what I was saying. We're not looking at two Ferraris at the moment. There we are, the two Ferraris pointing already towards the inside of the racetrack. They know they've got to get over to the right-hand side as quickly as possible. Frentzen too. And that means you just get that little bit less grip off the line. You've got to turn the car sooner or later.
Fingers crossed, everybody. They're all in position. 1 light, 2, 3, 4, 5. Go, 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 go. And Häkkinen pulls across. Schumacher gets right up alongside it as they go. Schumacher leads. Schumacher, an absolutely sensational start by Michael Schumacher. Gets him ahead of Mika Häkkinen. Eddie Irvine has got ahead of David Coulthard. So it is Ferrari, McLaren, and nobody expected that so quickly. So Michael Schumacher now with a clear track in front of him, the man who is leading the World Championship from Eddie Irvine, his teammate, by 4 points, round the Grand Hotel corner, down to the Portier, then from the Portier through the tunnel. Everybody seems to have got away cleanly.
Virtually stationary there in the hairpin, and we know that Schumacher has been testing his starts in Fiorano since the last race, dirty side of the track or not. Both Ferraris getting away very well, and then Michael Schumacher braking later into turn 1, as did Eddie Irvine. Ferrari have the upper hand, and in my view, that Ferrari is a faster car in race trim. I think the front end of the car is better, they've got better traction, less wheel spin, and that is the perfect scenario for Ferrari and Michael Schumacher.
Sure is, and Rubens Barrichello in the Stewart Ford is in 5th position, ahead of Knight's Harold Frentzen in the Jordan, the first of the Jordans. Michael Schumacher opening up a bit of a gap between himself and Mika Häkkinen.
Yes, it'll be interesting to see how far they go to the first stop. I think some of these cars are going to be well into the 40-odd laps before they need to make a pit stop, and it seems the way the two Ferraris got away so well, they could just be on a lighter fuel load in an attempt to get into that first corner first. If so, it's working. It'll show up if Schumacher has to pit in the 40s and the McLarens can go further into the race, then we'll see the fuel load they've got. But at the moment, it's worked best. Look, Hakkinen locks his front brakes. Irvine too, all looking a bit hairy in there. Somehow they all fell into line, and no tears at the first corner.
So Frentzen in the yellow car, followed by Jarno Trulli in the Frost in 7th position. Then it's Fisichella. Jacques Villeneuve in the BAR is in 9th position, ahead of Alex Zanardi in the Williams. Michael Schumacher then out of the chicane. He's exactly where he wants to be. But as Martin said, they went back to Fiorano in Italy the day before yesterday from Monte Carlo to practice starts and pit stops. Now, they're all on a one-stop strategy. I'm pretty sure of that, because you can't afford to stop here twice at Monaco. And last year, the earliest stop we had was Fisichella, who finished 2nd. He stopped on lap 31, and on lap 54, the latest stop was Jacques Villeneuve, who finished 5th in the Williams. And as a matter of interest, Mika Hakkinen, the McLaren race winner last year, as you look at Eddie Irvine ahead of David Coulthard, stopped on lap 37. So whichever way it is, we've got a long way now for things to get really established. And Michael Schumacher really piling on the pace. Fastest lap already, 1 minute 25.15. And that is 2 seconds off the fastest lap last year.
So the noise is incredible. I can barely hear you talking up here, Murray. Absolutely incredible as they stream down the pit straight. But Michael Schumacher looking absolutely invincible at the front there. As you said, a half a second quicker than Hakkinen and 1.5 seconds faster than Irvine and David Coulthard, streaming away at the front.
So the gaps now, as you see, Barrichello go through the tunnel and now down to the chicane. That's David Coulthard's McLaren. He's in 4th position, so it's still Ferrari, McLaren, then Barrichello, Stewart, Frenson's Jordan. Damon Hill is still in 17th position. He hasn't made up any time.
Yes, I think another important point is that the only driver to have finished all 3 races so far this year in the entire field is Michael Schumacher. The Ferrari has had tremendous reliability for some time now.
And he's a triple winner. Michael Schumacher won in 94 and 95 for Benetton. He had that absolutely spellbinding victory for Ferrari in 1997, and he's right on the top of his form. Ferrari have been working so hard on this car since their excellent car of 1998 was put away, and they've got it absolutely right. McLaren had the edge when the season started, although Eddie Irvine, of course, won in Australia for Ferrari. And Schumacher and Ross Brawn and Rory Byrne and everyone else at Ferrari have put together a superb package. Now, what's happening behind? There's quite a battle, but behind Rubens Barrichello, Heinz-Harald Frentzen in 6th position has got Jarno Trulli right behind him. Now, we're looking at Marc Genet. That's a bit of plastic attaching itself to the aerial on his car. He won't be able to do anything about it. He can't reach forward and pull it off.
No, he can't actually. His seat belts, that the shoulder straps will be way too tight to get that far forward, but I suspect the Airstream will do that job for him.
So, David Coulthard. Now, let's watch David Coulthard, and you can see how they have to be absolutely millimetre perfect on their line here. If you put a wheel on a curb and... oh, that is Damon Hill and Ralf Schumacher in the chicane. So, Damon has spun.
Yes, look, Damon's coming in. He gets nipped by Ralf. Don't think Ralf saw him coming. Damon's car's going absolutely no further. It's got a wheel hanging off, as you saw. The engine is stalled. It's got to clear that car away because it's blocking the racetrack. We may see the safety car. Depends. The marshals do work very, very fast here. And look, Schumacher's got half a lap to go before he comes across that incident. And the marshal's got to get a trolley underneath that yellow Jordan, get it out of the way. Or if they've got a crane on that corner, they can just hoist it out. But at the moment, the track was blocked. Although, of course, as you saw, 2 cars did go straight across the chicane. There's no penalty there as long as you don't make up a place.
Now, Heinz-Harald Frentzen nearly went into Zanardi's car. Well done,
yeah,
well done, lads. They got it out of the way.
Oh,
just as Schumacher arrives. That was a very nifty bit of marshalling. They're very, very good in it indeed here. So 3.3 seconds. Do you hear that? 3.3 seconds. And Hakkinen is speeding up. Hakkinen has gone fastest in the first of the 3 sectors, which this lap is divided up into. He's gone faster than he's been before in the second sector. Mika Häkkinen on lap 5, out of 78, is starting to challenge Michael Schumacher. He cannot afford to let the Ferrari get away, because later on, when they start coming in to take on new tyres and more fuel, if they come out amid the traffic, it can close the gaps more here than anywhere else. So, coming up the Beau Rivage, Schumacher, Häkkinen, Irvine. There is Häkkinen going round the Hotel de Paris, and you will see later on in this race that Michael Schumacher has got an entirely novel line into the pit lane for refuelling, which I think is going to give him an advantage.
Could well be right. Interesting, looking at the top 4 cars, they've stabilised really. 1 minute 25.1 for Michael, 25.1 for Mika, Eddie Irvine in third at 25.3, and Coulthard in fourth at 25.2. So they really have stabilised on the same pace now as we expected. Mind you, Michael's on a stormer on this lap.
And this man is superlatively fit. So that is Zanardi, and Zanardi is in 10th place, followed by Wurz. You can see they're all tight up together. Johnny Herbert is 12th behind Wurz. Then there's Mika Salo in the BAR. Mika Salo, incidentally, taking the place of Ricardo Zonta, the Brazilian driver who hurt his leg in practice from the Brazilian Grand Prix. And Mika Salo is very much a Monaco expert. There he is.
Yes, you somehow get mesmerised following other cars around here. You're steering their rear wing, you're breathing in their exhaust fumes, and you just end up just following them if you're not careful, instead of attacking them. There's very little you can do. They're always going to be on the throttle, at least a car length ahead of you. So you've got to force them into making a mistake somehow, and then try and capitalise on it, or wait for the back markers. Meanwhile, Michael Schumacher, a new fastest lap of the race, a 1:23.9. and increased his lead to 4 seconds, 7/10 of a second faster than Häkkinen on that lap.
Now, let's discuss a rumour. McLaren have got not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 cars here. And the rumour is that one of them is set up for them to be able to go right the way through the race without a stop.
Never in a month of Sundays, Murray. We haven't got enough fuel in that. And if it was raining and they were going slowly, they might, but it's not, and they're not.
Well, let's take care of that one. The rumour was that they put a bigger fuel tank in it. So we watch Zanardi, followed by Wurz, followed by Johnny Herbert. Then there is a gap to Mika Salo. Alesi in the Sauber. Pedro Diniz in the other Sauber is in 15th place. Olivier Panis not going at all well. He hasn't gone at all well the whole weekend in the Prost car. And his teammate Jarno Trulli is way ahead of him in 7th position. Chicane, Zanardi. Wurz. Zanardi, incidentally, hasn't gone as well as I've said before. That's Mika Salo, Alesi, Diniz, Panis, Tora Takagi in the green helmet, in the black arrows. The Japanese driver is in 17th position. I said that Zanardi has not gone as well in the first 3 races as we hoped and expected he would, the double American champion, although of course he's very Italian. And he was hoping to regain his reputation here at Monaco. Hasn't done so far. He started well down the grid, and he crashed his car this morning, as I said earlier on, and they've had to completely rebuild that car. He started from 11th position on the starting grid, right down, halfway down the grid, and that's a major problem because you're in amongst traffic right from the start. Michael Schumacher. Just watch the way that car rides.
Yeah, Michael just dances the car around here, but it was clear to see right from the beginning of practice that both Ferraris are working well. It's always difficult to get the nose of a Formula One car into such slow and slippery corners, big camber changes, drains, zebra crossings and all that sort of thing, and you just spend so long on the apex of the corner waiting for the front to come in. The McLaren hasn't been able to do that, and I think Michael's car will be much better balanced as the race goes on. I think he'll keep his front tyres in better shape, and he's taken a second a lap out of Häkkinen now, and lead is up to 5.6 seconds. You can see for yourself, and Michael is just in his element on this kind of acrobatic racetrack, but at the same time, with that new front wing on the car and other things they've clearly done to it, the car is just working beautifully. We use the word balanced in Formula One so much, because we mean that the front and the back end are sliding consistently. The car's always four-wheel sliding through corners. Doesn't sometimes look like it, but marginally it is, and we like it to slide front and rear together. And well, the Ferrari just seems that little bit better than Häkkinen. David Coulthard there smoking the McLaren, the Mercedes-Benz engine smoking there on Coulthard's car, as you saw. Sometimes happens when you're off the throttle, Murray, and reapply the throttle. You get some pressure in the engine, but that is not a good sign.
Well, already Michael Schumacher, who's made the fastest lap, we're on lap 9, incidentally, made the fastest lap on lap 8, and it's only half a second slower than Mika Häkkinen's fastest lap last year, notwithstanding the fact, as I keep saying, and it bears repeating, that this year the cars have got 4 groove front tyres. Last year they had 3 groove front tyres, therefore less rubber on the track than there was last year, therefore less grip. And it's yet another indication as we watch Jarno Trulli battling against Fisichella for 7th position. We take a break. Lap 11 out of 78, and you're looking at Mika Häkkinen, and Michael Schumacher is really building up the pace as Eddie Irvine goes across the chicane there. He won't suffer, but Louise Goodman has got Damon Hill with her. What happened?
Damon, no fond memories of Monaco 99 then?
No, not really, no. I'll have to just pack up that one and just, you know, forget it.
You didn't like this much place before we even came here, did you?
What, sorry?
You didn't like this place much before we even came here this year, did
No,
you?
that's not true. I like Monaco. I like driving Monaco, but, you know, I qualified 17th and I had to do something different, and unfortunately I needed to take a lot of risks in order for it to work, and unfortunately that was always going to be a problem.
Thanks, Damon.
Well, as you watch the battle now with the steward of Johnny Herbert, and we come back to Eddie Irvine. I'll tell you, he's still in a good 3rd position.
Yeah, well, certainly Damon's having an awful season, but he's been through tough times before. I think he's got the spirit to bring it back. I have to say that was a bit of a clumsy one, but Damon's big enough to admit, I think, that it was his fault. But as he said, what else is he going to do? Probably he could have waited a little bit further into the race, I think. 78-lap race, and he was out after 8 of them. I think you have to have a bit of patience here, but I think at the moment, Murray, Damon's got a lot more frustration than patience.
Well, I was just going to say, enormous frustration. He was terribly downhearted, understandably, that he started as low as 17th, particularly as he went 5th fastest this morning. Nothing wrong with the car, he just slammed it into the barrier at the Rascasse, just there, as a matter of fact. yesterday and shook himself up pretty badly, and if you lose time on setting up a car here for qualifying, you never ever get it back. We're watching David Coulthard. He's 15 seconds behind Mika Häkkinen now. Coulthard in 4th position, and the truth of the matter, I have to say, unless I'm missing something, Martin, is that the McLarens are just not as good as the Ferraris at the moment.
Well, I think that he's 15 seconds behind Schumacher rather than Häkkinen, but I think it's clear they're not handling as well around here. And I think pole position yesterday, you saw the elation, and there was an element of surprise, I think. It was a stunning performance right at the end there by McLaren. There's Coulthard's car smoking.
Smoke again.
I mean, sooner or later he's going to run out of oil, unfortunately, with that one. But I think it's also, it seems to me, the McLarens, the pace is not quite right somewhere. I think you'll find those McLarens are running a huge amount of fuel. So let's see how it unfolds. But
yep,
Michael clearly does have the pace.
It's early days yet. We're on lap 13. As I said, the earliest pit stop that we had last year was on lap 31. The latest was Jacques Villeneuve on lap 54. And it could well be, as you rightly say, as we watch the two Saubers going round together, of Jean Alesi, and now we're with Jean Alesi now. You talk us round. This is marvellous, Martin.
Yes, over the pavement.
Panis,
over the pavement there. We're on board with Panis in the Prost, and we're no longer on board with Panis in the Prost, but we'll lose certainly on board as he goes through the tunnel. Surprising me how many drivers are running with tinted visors. Most of them have clear. It's the only way around here because you get through, you've got to see through that tunnel. But on board with Panis now, going down to back up to about 140. Watch the barrier on the left. You get so close to that and then slide the car over those white lines, picking up the little curves, and now into the second part of the swimming pool. The back will dance around a little bit, have to climb over the little pavement on the inside. Now Raskas, it's so easy to outbrake yourself into here because you're braking, turning, downshifting. Now look, he's got his arms completely crossed there. You'd probably fail your driving test if you did that, but that's the only way to drive a Formula One car. He was virtually on full lock there.
Zanardi ahead of them, 10th position. And news from James Allen in the pit lane.
Well, Murray, I have to say I agree with you both completely on this strategy situation. The lost time here, which is in other words the time it takes to come into the pits, how much you lose relative to your opponents, is for one stoppers, which they are, is about 24 seconds. You're stationary for about 10 seconds of that time. Now, Michael Schumacher had a 6-second lead after 10 laps. So he's bang on target to come in around lap 40 and be able to resume in the lead. I agree with Martin. I think Ferrari have perceived the advantage they have over McLaren and figured that McLaren would probably put over 100 kilos of fuel in at the car at the start. They're going to bring him in sort of a little bit earlier than McLaren. And of course, as Martin was saying earlier, the track will come to Schumacher later on in the race. The more rubber goes down. So at the moment, they're in the driving seat for sure.
Yes, it is a question of how long they spend in the pits. You're right, James. But it's also much more importantly around here is track position. You must always have your man in front because it is impossible to overtake another car of similar speed unless the driver makes a mistake. So I think at the moment, as you say, they'll be looking to get Schumacher far enough ahead to make sure he's always leading the race.
Schumacher coming up to lap the Minardi as they go to the chicane. Marc Genet moves over. Well done, Marc. Moves over, and that's Ralf Schumacher behind him in the Williams. You'll remember he had a collision with Damon Hill. He's rejoined. He's in 19th position.
Well, at that rate, Murray, he's going to get lapped 6 times. Incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, he was about 7 seconds off the pace this morning. Marc Genet, the Spaniard who's new to Formula One in the Minardi. Of course, although the Minardi has got a lot less power than the others, it doesn't matter so much at Monaco, but it still matters a lot. And their team is very underfunded compared with the big wheels at the front.
Now, this is interesting. The 2 fastest cars on the last lap were the 2 McLarens, which I think somewhat confirms my view they're carrying a lot of fuel. And Coulthard now in the 23s, as was Häkkinen, which is very close to Schumacher's fastest lap. So maybe, just maybe, those McLarens are coming back to the drivers. Now they're shedding a load. Every 10 kilos of fuel they put in the car cost them about 1/4 of a second per lap. And small tolerances, it's the laws of physics, you can't get around it. And that's why they tend to go better as the fuel load goes down.
Lap 16 out of 78. Michael Schumacher in the Ferrari leads Mika Häkkinen by 8 seconds. Eddie Irvine is third. And look at that smoke again coming out of the exhaust pipe of David Coulthard's car. That is not meant to happen. It could well be, as Martin said earlier, that he's running dry of oil, and that'll cause a problem, to put it mildly, for the Mercedes V10 engine later. So Irvine in third position. The man you're looking at now, David Coulthard, is 15 seconds behind Schumacher in fourth position. Rubens Barrichello in the Stewart is still fifth ahead of Heinz-Harald Frentzen. Jarno Trulli is catching Frentzen from seventh position. Fisichella is eighth. Jacques Villeneuve in ninth position. He started eighth. Alexander Wurz in the Benetton is 10th, then Johnny Herbert ahead of Mika Salo 12th, and there is the arrows being passed by Eddie Irvine, coming towards the third position in the Ferrari.
As of course David Coulthard was chasing Häkkinen down here last year, and his engine launched itself, so he's going to be pretty unhappy if it happens again, but it wouldn't surprise me, would it, you, Murray? Wouldn't surprise me to see that engine go.
No, it would not. I'm sort of waiting for it to go all the time, because I notice, as you rightly say, that when he moves the accelerator in the appropriate position, that's when we get that puff of smoke. It's bad news, but let's watch very carefully if the producer stays with David Coulthard. Because Michael Schumacher, meantime, there he goes. Look at that. That's worse than it was last time.
Well, it's coming out of one exhaust as well, which suggests that there's a problem on one bank of the V10 engine. So Coulthard possibly living on borrowed time. That's a view of the two bosses of McLaren, Mansur Ojah on the right, Ron Dennis on the left, and they'll be studying that blue smoke. Probably with some more fear than we are even.
Now, Ferrari had an enormously reliable car last year. They've got a very reliable car this year, although Eddie Irvine had an engine problem which took him out of the San Marino Grand Prix. The reverse seems to be the case with McLaren, because Häkkinen's only finished in one race of the three this year, and the same applies to David Coulthard.
Michael Schumacher's just given them a response, a 1:22.9. His lead has gone up to 12 seconds, and he was a full 2.5 seconds faster than Häkkinen on that last lap. Häkkinen, I think, in traffic. So Michael, I think that's a very conscious thing from him. He got through the traffic well. He knows that Häkkinen had to get through that traffic, and he's put a spurt on and pulled the lead up to 12 seconds.
0.03 of a second slower than Mika Häkkinen's fastest time last year. A great achievement. David Coulthard now, we're looking at him going round. Oh, there he goes again. And he dives inside the Minardi of Marc Genet, who's now been lapped by Michael Schumacher, by Mika Häkkinen, by Eddie Irvine and David Coulthard. Just two retirements. Luca Badoer is out of the race in the Minardi. Damon Hill is out of the race in the Jordan. 20 of the 22 starters are still running. The last of them is Pedro de la Rosa in the Arrows. Michael Schumacher comes through to complete his 18th lap. 60 to go. Tora Takagi in the Arrows moves over, lets him through. Sander Vogt, brake hard, 55 miles an hour, accelerate hard up to 160 miles an hour. In that short distance for Massenet.
Yes, there was a lot of fuss after Imola about people not obeying the blue flags, and people shouting loud and clear. And I have to say, so far, the drivers have been exemplary. Maybe that's had the desired effect. But it's Irvine who's on the move at the moment. He's now just 2.6 seconds behind Mika Häkkinen, and beginning to put him under some pressure.
The blue flags, incidentally, one of the many different coloured flags that can be used by the marshals, and they're pretty good here. And the blue flag means there is someone behind you trying to get past. Let him through. Now, obviously, if you're fighting for track position, you're not going to do that. But in the case of the San Marino Grand Prix 2 weeks ago, Olivier Panis was a lap behind Michael Schumacher as the German came up to lap him, and he refused to yield, and Michael Schumacher reckoned that cost him a lot of time. He still won the race, of course, the San Marino Grand Prix, with David Coulthard in second position. Mika Häkkinen there, out of the event when he crashed, and Mika Häkkinen is now coming up behind Ralf Schumacher in the Williams, down in 18th position. Not at all a happy race for Williams at the present moment, because Schumacher is in 18th position. His teammate Zanardi is only in 16th place.
Yes, we haven't seen it on screen, but Zanardi's clearly made a mistake. I suspect he'd gone up the escape road at San Devoto or something, because he's still in the race, and normally if you make a mistake around here, you're in the wall for good. But San Devoto you can just get away with. Zanardi way back down in 16th, having run 10th in the early stages.
Don't want to put him down, Martin, but you have to say that Zanardi has not lived up to the promise that everybody thought he'd got.
He's not come to terms with his cars at all, I think, although he's looked stronger around here. And just to rub salt in the wounds, Montoya, the Formula 3000 champion, has gone over to the States and is showing them the way around very, very early on. So Alex will be hurting a bit at the moment. I saw him in the hotel after Brazil, actually, and difficult to know what to say to him. You just say, well, keep your head down, it'll come right in the end.
Hello, Alex, probably. Well, this is lap 20, which is just over 1 quarter distance, and Eddie Irvine third in the Ferrari there, comes up to the Rascasse, having lapped Ralf Schumacher, who was going very well at one point in the Williams, and then he had problems yesterday and qualified well down.
Yes, I think Häkkinen's going to have Irvine bearing down on him. Häkkinen's picked up his pace a bit on this lap, but I think Häkkinen could well have Irvine coming at him in the not too distant future.
Michael Schumacher leads Mika Häkkinen on lap 21 with the fastest lap already by nearly 14 seconds. Eddie Irvine is 2.2 seconds behind Häkkinen, and you can see that now on the picture, and he has been gaining.
Well, Murray, you wouldn't have put your post office account on a Williams being lapped at quarter distance in Monaco a couple of years back, would you?
No, I most certainly wouldn't. I remember the ignominy of Jacques Villeneuve when he was lapped in 1996, and he was very new to street racing of this kind, and these cars, of course, are very, very nervous, very nimble compared with the heavier, steadier Indy cars, kart racing in America, and I think Zanardi is having the same sort of problem in mastering that, as down to the chicane comes second place Mika Häkkinen, who is in third equal position in the World Championship, sharing that position with Heinz-Harald Frentzen, and Frentzen is currently in 6th place on 1 World Championship point. I had dinner with Eddie Jordan the other day and I asked him to make a prophecy about what would happen here. He said row 2 or row 3 for qualifying, and he was right there, because Heinz-Harald Frentzen started 6th, which is row 3, and he also said at least 1 podium. I've got it written on a piece of paper in front of me as I talk to you. It doesn't look like it at the present moment. So, lap 22, time for a break. out of 78. Michael Schumacher comes up behind the Prost as he turns into Casino Square, and there is Heinz-Harald Frentzen in the yellow Jordan. We haven't seen him for a while. He's in 6th place, and you can see how close Jarno Trulli and Fisichella are to it.
Yes, last time past the start-finish line, it was a half a second Trulli was behind, with Fisichella another 1.2 adrift. Both Frentzen and Trulli been driving exceptionally well all through the weekend, especially Frentzen. Trulli going in the pits. That's very early. That's very, very early to be doing now.
This is only lap 23. As I said earlier on, I wasn't really expecting anybody, as last year, to come in before lap 31. Let's see if it's a routine stop. Yeah, it looks like it. I mean, the mechanic cleaning the visor. He couldn't possibly be on a 2-stop strategy.
Well, he certainly is now, I would have thought. No point in carrying a great big fuel load like that to the end of the race. They've got it back to front. But I guess if it's a 75-lap race, 78-lap race, 3 lots of 25 or 26 laps is fine, but 23 seems very early. Unless they've decided that because he was getting held up, because he was stuck behind Frentzen, they try and give him some free space on the racetrack and move him up that way.
The interesting thing is he's only lost, this is Schumacher still leading by over 15 seconds. The interesting thing is with that quick stop, Jarno Trulli only lost 1 place. Jacques Villeneuve got ahead into 8th position, but Trulli got out of the pits just before 10th place man Alex Wurz in the Benetton came through. Now, with the 2-stop strategy, of course, you are making the race, in effect, 3 flat-out sprints. You can't relax for a second.
Well, whatever strategy you're on, you can't relax. You can't afford to give away anything, really, and that is a big problem if you run a heavy fuel load at the beginning. It's very easy for the driver to take a mindset of, well, you know, let's just take this easy while the car's fat and heavy and the car feels a bit clumsy, relatively speaking. And you saw Irvine just 1.8 seconds now behind the 2nd place McLaren of Mika Hakkinen, who is 15.3 seconds behind race leader Michael Schumacher.
And Eddie Irvine is lapping half a second a lap quicker. Doesn't sound much, but multiply that by a few laps and he'll be with the McLaren if they both maintain the same speeds that they're doing now. And I'm reminded that last year, Eddie Irvine collided with Heinz-Harald Frentzen, who was then driving for the Williams team. They had a coming together at the Lowe's hairpin, the Grand Hotel hairpin these days. And there is the McLaren. There is the 3rd place Ferrari going round the Rascasse corner. Now, the gap between Hakkinen 2nd and Irvine 3rd was 1.8 seconds. Let's see if Eddie Irvine has closed it at all. Yes, he has, by 1/10 of a second. Not much, but there's still a lot of laps left. This is lap 26. It's a 78-lap race. And there in the background is Coulthard as James Allen has more news.
Well, Murray, the Eddie Irvine-Hakkinen situation isn't the only scrap in prospect. There's also a very interesting one going on between Rubens Barrichello and Heinz-Harald Frentzen for 5th place. That gap's been alternating around the 2.5 to 2.9 second bracket. But what's interesting in that battle is that the stewards, unfortunately, have quite a small fuel tank on the board. So Barrichello is going to be obliged to stop before Frentzen. I spoke to some of the Jordan people before the race, and they said, yeah, we're just going to sit nice and close to him behind. And when Barrichello comes in, we're just going to pick up a place. Heart-wrenching for Barrichello, but great news for Jordan.
David Coulthard 4th, coming up behind Ralf Schumacher 18th in the Williams to lap him, and that'll give Eddie Irvine the opportunity to close right up on the McLaren, and that's one of the Minardis, and he's gone out just after Saint Devant. They've already got the crane ready, and that's the reason. Slam bang, it is Marc Genet who has been really out of his depth on this circuit for the whole weekend.
Yes, he has. He must have doubled Monaco's budget for Armco barrier, because he's been having a nibble at it just about everywhere he had the opportunity. So Genet really, having made a reasonable start in Formula 1 in Melbourne, really now beginning to struggle. And it does get harder and harder, the pressure, the testing, the press, the expectation, and it's the kind of slope you often see with new young drivers.
Well, Michael Schumacher, smooth, that's where he went off, just a bit further back a couple of years ago on the very first lap. Not this one, though. He's nearly over 15 seconds ahead.
last 2 laps, David Coulthard's been the fastest driver on the track and beginning to home in on Irvine, who's homing in on Hakkinen, as you already know. So clearly Coulthard getting more and more comfortable with his car too. And they're all a little bit faster than race leader Michael Schumacher,
who is on his 27th lap. Look at that, left, right at the swimming pool, now right, left, doing 100 miles an hour. Quite incredible, the reflexes of these drivers and the way the cars are set up. This is the Rascasse, that's the corner where he takes it very tight indeed when he comes into the pits. We don't know when that's going to be. It's not going to be very long before they start coming in though.
Well, Rubens Barrichello in 5th place, Murray. Now we're not watching at the moment, but he's been doing a great job all season, hasn't he, let alone all weekend here. And Johnny Herbert back in 11th place and moving along quite quickly. He's catching Burts for 10th. So the 2 Stewart Fords going well. And really, those top 6 drivers, Michael Schumacher, Hakkinen, Irvine, Coulthard, Barrichello, Frentzen, have been the class of the field.
And Eddie Irvine again takes another 10th out of David Coulthard. 1.6 seconds now between the Ferrari and the McLaren, 3rd and 2nd.
Yeah, I think you find that's Hakkinen. He's taken another 10th out of, but they're all on virtually identical times. So pretty good scrap building up here, Murray.
Yep, there is just 20 seconds now covering the top 4 on lap 28. As we look at Eddie Irvine, there is Coulthard, Hakkinen ahead of him, Coulthard behind him, and the De La Rosa in the arrows running wide. He's in 19th and last position. Just 3 retirements at the present moment. Damon Hill, who went out with that collision with Schumacher. Luca Badoer, who went out in the Minardi. Marc Genet, we've just seen retiring. So a terrible day for the Minardi team. And they do try so hard. And they are such nice people. They really deserve to do better. And there are 19 competitors left. And the Prost team are waiting to bring somebody in. We've already had Jarno Trulli in on 1 pit stop, and that wasn't long ago, so it must be Olivier Panis, who is in 15th position.
Michael Schumacher's responded as you see Panis coming into his garage of mechanics, and Schumacher's responded with a new fastest lap of the race that matches the lap record around here, actually not quite by 0.02 of a second, on a 1:22.950 as Panis rejoins the racetrack. A very quick stop, not too much fuel to put in. The fuel consumption around this circuit is very low because of the low average speed. But here we go, he's got to stay inside that yellow line if he can. It's always difficult here because the pit straight, as we've said many times before, bends quite severely to the right, and that's exactly where the pit lane feeds in. And here's 2nd, 3rd and 4th, all in the same shot at the hairpin.
And Mika Hakkinen has gone fastest of all in the 1st sector. He is speeding up as the fuel load comes down, and that can argue that he's on a heavy fuel load and will be stopping later than Michael Schumacher. So the German leading by just over 15 seconds, and Mika Hakkinen continues his increased speed. He's gone faster in the 2nd sector.
Well, Michael Schumacher coming up to lap Johnny Herbert, and James Allen spotted down in the pits that Michael's apparent slowing of pace really was because of traffic. He went through Villeneuve, Trulli and Burts and that lot, and that explains why he's appeared to be off the pace and why he's now putting another sprint in. Of course, his pursuers have got to go through that lot yet.
Yeah, Johnny Herbert very courteously and considerately moved out of the way. He saw the shape of the Ferrari. And there are a lot of people who are saying that the yellow, intimidating colour of that Ferrari attracts people's attention when they see it coming up in their red Ferrari, when they see it come up rather than the silver of the McLarens. Perhaps a far-fetched theory, but it's a bit of fun.
There might be something in it. Senna with his red and white car and his bright yellow helmet used to be an intimidating force, but it was more because he'd drive over you sooner than drive round you. But I think most people will get out of the way of a McLaren as well, certainly the pace that's had in the last 18 months, 2 years, so I'm not a big subscriber to that. I think it's your demeanour when you arrive that makes the difference.
Lap 30 in the 78 lap Monaco Grand Prix, and Michael Schumacher is just under 16 seconds now ahead of Mika Hakkinen, and he doesn't come in. And Eddie Irvine is 1.9 seconds in 3rd place behind the McLaren, and 2.4 seconds ahead of David Coulthard, who is 4th. So there you can see Hakkinen, Irvine, second and third. Look back for David Coulthard, there he is in the McLaren, second, third and fourth. Have only got about 4.5 seconds covering them. Rubens Barrichello is nearly half a minute down the road in 5th place, and he's still got Heinz Harald Frentzen very close to him, 2.3 seconds behind him, and Irvine continues to close. The gap between himself and Mika Hakkinen is now 1.2 seconds. Mika Hakkinen is going to be under very real pressure soon.
Yes, and Irvine, he spun there this morning, the back end of the car getting a little bit out of shape. You do tend to run more rear brake bias. Coulthard's still homing in too. You do tend to run more brakes to the rear on this circuit so that you don't block a front too often. James, what can you tell us?
Well, I've spotted something else, Martin, that traffic, which is the Sarlo, Diniz, Lacey battle. The three of them are very close together on the track. That's what slowed Schumacher down about 5 laps ago. And Mika Hakkinen is now closing in on that gang. He's about a lap or two away from encountering them. We're entering to the pivotal point of the race now. This is why Irvine's putting pressure on Hakkinen. It's because I think Ferrari are hoping that that battle will hold Hakkinen up, and that'll give Schumacher the window he needs, the 8 seconds he needs to come in and get back out again in front of Mika Hakkinen. We're getting into the fun part of the race now, boys.
Well spotted as ever, James. James, if you could surreptitiously sidle down to the McLaren garage and ask them if they're worried about this oil smoke and Coulthard's, it would be very interesting. But there's Hakkinen, there is Eddie Irvine, and it's now down to under 1 second. It's come from 1.6 seconds to under a second.
New lap record for Michael Schumacher, a 1:22.6. He wants to open that gap back up, which is now 17.7 seconds, as you can see. So Schumacher, and look, as Murray's already told you, under a second now. It's a lot easier to chase than be chased, especially around this racetrack. You don't have any time to be looking in your mirrors and a red flash coming through them, especially into slow corners where your pursuer always seems to be catching you. You're convinced he's braking later than you, and in reality he's not, because you open it out again on the way out. But it's an effect you very much feel inside the car.
Yeah, Eddie Irvine really trying as Michael Schumacher increases the gap nearly up to 18 seconds ahead of Mika Hakkinen. It's still Rubens Barrichello 5th, Frentzen 6th, Fisichella 7th, Villeneuve still in 8th position ahead of Jarno Trulli and Alex Wurz in the Benetton. Johnny Herbert is in 11th place, Sarlo is 12th, Lacey and Diniz in the Saubers are 13th and 14th. Zanardi a lap down, 15th in the Williams.
22.2, 1 minute 22.2 for Michael Schumacher up there in the lead. Let's see what that does to his overall lead. An amazing lap time.
That is 0.7 of a second faster than Mika Hakkinen's fastest lap last year. It's an amazing drive. Because I'll just say it once more, and then I'll assume everybody knows what I'm talking about. These 4 groove tyres offer less grip, and he's still getting on to a second faster than Mika Hakkinen was last year. Incredible. Mika Hakkinen, Eddie Irvine, there is the gap. And Irvine closes up on braking, and Coulthard is right up there too. Now, I don't want to start getting alarmist. I'm starting to wonder if Mika Hakkinen has got some sort of a problem, the way both the cars behind him are closing on him.
I still subscribe to what I said earlier on, that the Ferrari is just handling better around here, using its tyres less,
Yeah,
and giving the driver an easier time. But having said that, Coulthard is really homing in on the pair of them, frankly.
James Allen News.
Oh, look at this traffic.
Hold on,
here.
James. Hold on, because De La Rosa moves over. Hakkinen takes him, and Eddie Irvine is challenging now for second position as they come up to the Ras Kass. Just hold on a minute, James. We'll be with you very quickly. This is a real battle developing for second place between Mika Hakkinen, the world champion, and Eddie Irvine, the winner of the Australian Grand Prix. His first victory for Ferrari. And David Coulthard has also got past the arrows. Is it a quick one, James? Let's have it.
Yeah, it is. I'm down at McLaren, and the engineers of Mercedes don't look at all concerned by Coulthard's engine. It's obviously something long-term, but nothing that they can do anything about.
Thanks for that, James. Thank you. So,
well, just to let you know, and his car's going straight on again. Who's that? Villeneuve, isn't it?
It's Villeneuve.
Yeah, I think it's Villeneuve. I don't think he'll get penalised. That's Johnny, isn't it? I think it's Johnny Herbert.
Johnny Herbert out of the race, as I've said many times.
Something's broke. Oh, look,
yeah,
the right rear wheel. He did well to hold that. Well done, Johnny. I mean, sheer fear, I'd imagine.
That's coming down
out
to Casino Square, down to the Mirabeau.
Down to Mirabeau, yeah, and he's obviously, he may have nerfed the barrier earlier on in the race. Villeneuve's in the pit lane as we look at Johnny Herbert's stricken car up the escape road, but Johnny doing extremely well to hold that. If you nerf a barrier here, often you get a payback a few laps later as the loads are going through the suspension, and suddenly you've got a wheel pointing in the wrong direction.
Second, third, fourth, McLaren, Ferrari, McLaren, lap 35 out of 78. Eddie Irvine is pushing Mika Häkkinen very hard indeed. And meantime, Michael Schumacher maintains his meteoric pace. He is nearly 23 seconds ahead of this battle for second place. And Mika Häkkinen now can't be content with just watching the track ahead of him. He will know that Eddie Irvine is behind him and that he's got to resist.
Villeneuve is out of the race. We saw him go straight on at the chicane. He then pitted on that same lap. So Villeneuve out of the race in the BAR, still no points for them, and we may pick it up in a minute. I think there's rather a lot of smoke coming out of the back of it. Hopefully the director will go in and show us what's going on there, but meanwhile Häkkinen coming up to those back markers that cost. Oh, here we go.
Oh,
that was a nice move from Alesi. And was it a Lacey coming through there? Yes, it was. A Lacey coming through and saying, OK, go, I'm coming through. It's up to you. What are you going to do about it? And maybe Salo was just watching the traffic coming up behind him, and a Lacey seized the moment. And that's exactly how you got to drive around Monaco.
And he moved in the process up to 10th position by passing Mika Salo. So Jean Alesi, and now they're streaming through the field. There is Mika Salo. They're all whizzing past him in the BAR, including Mika Häkkinen and Eddie Irvine, and David Coulthard will be the next.
Yes, I mean, to make it clear to the teams now up on the computer here, every time a blue flag is waved at a back marker, it's recorded on the computer for all of the teams to see. And this whole blue flag issue is becoming much bigger, and you can see it's having a very positive effect because it's not interrupting this race too much.
And meantime, Michael Schumacher in the lead has lapped everybody up to 8th position. 8th position, Jarno Trulli, and he is 1 minute and 12 seconds behind Michael Schumacher. So he's going to be caught and lapped by the time this race ends, as Häkkinen, Irvine...
Where's Coulthard? Didn't see Coulthard go through the picture.
Where is David? I didn't see him at the Rascasse.
He's done a very slow lap as Coulthard. That's why he's dropped off the back of that picture. I don't know whether it was with traffic. It was some 7 or 8 seconds off the pace was Coulthard on that run, so on that particular lap, and that's why he's dropped off the back of this scrap for second place. Be interesting to see what happens.
Well, David Coulthard now 8 seconds, over 8 seconds behind Eddie Irvine, who continues to push hard to distract Mika Häkkinen in second position down to the chicane. This is lap 36, and there's the Jordan of Damon Hill pushed into the barrier in the background.
I think Coulthard's going to be out of this race very shortly. He's 7 seconds off the pace in the first sector of this next lap. Ferrari team getting ready for a stop. That'll be earlier than I expected. Maybe they'll pull Irvine in to try to give him track position on what is clearly a slower McLaren in front of him at the moment. Does Irvine duck in the pits this time? No. Maybe it's next time. Maybe the team are just bluffing to say they're going to bring him in.
They've got to come out. They are not allowed to come out till the lap that the driver that they're going to service is coming in, if you follow me. So I reckon it must be Michael Schumacher, especially as he's got a 27-second lead now. Potentially he can come in, stop, take on fuel and tyres and get out again, still in the lead. And I do hope that they let us see this line that he takes into the pits.
Now with the information, Murray, from the pits is it's going to be Irvine, but they'll be looking to see where they'll feed him back in. They'll calculate how long it takes in the pit lane during the pit stop, 6.5 seconds stop, and the time it takes to negotiate the pit lane, and see where that'll feed him back in as to regards traffic. So we still think it is going to be Irvine coming in. Schumacher going past the pit lane and merrily on his way. 27.7 seconds in the lead last time around. He could make it over 30 seconds this time.
Well, and David Coulthard has got some sort of a problem. I think it's more than traffic, because he's now 21 seconds behind third-placed Eddie Irvine in the red Ferrari there, who is right on the tail of Mika Häkkinen, Barrichello is catching Coulthard, hand over fist. Barrichello looking, and in goes Irvine. He's yours, James Allen.
Yes, they're taking advantage of the fact that Coulthard's got the engine problem. I was looking at the smoke on the Mercedes monitors coming out of the exhaust. His race is more or less over. Smart timing by Ferrari, get him out in front of Barrichello and maintain his third place.
6.7 seconds for Eddie Irvine. Comes in on lap 38. Tours out of the pits, of course. He's on a limiter there. Just slips over the yellow line. Just about made it up to Saint-Devot, and he's got through before David Coulthard. So Eddie Irvine retains his third position. David Coulthard is in the pits. David Coulthard coming in as very, very slowly. Is this a retirement? If it is, it'll be his third retirement in 4 races. Off comes the steering wheel. David Coulthard, and out goes Mika Salo in the BAR. Now, Coulthard failed to finish in Australia, he failed to finish in Brazil, he fails to finish at Monaco.
Now watch Salo, look, I think he didn't lock the wheels, look, he's lost his brakes. Now remember, Villeneuve went straight on at the chicane and pitted immediately. I would normally have expected to see blue smoke pouring off the tyres there. Didn't happen. I think this is going to be a replay of Johnny Herbert's right rear suspension buckling under, and wow, that was a roller coaster ride down the hill. Well handled, Johnny. He's applying the brakes. It's amazing, if you keep working at it, how you can avoid an accident or turn the car and minimise the impact. Johnny working overtime there.
Well, not a good race for McLaren. They've only had one good race this year, and that was the San Marino Grand Prix. And Takagi's engine blows in the arrows. Well, it's half distance now. You see the mice are getting at the machinery, and things are getting very difficult indeed. Very disconcerting for Ralf Schumacher behind Takagi there, with the engine blowing in his face. I've seen them blow so hard and the oil smoke be so thick that you literally can't see, and if you're travelling fast in the car behind, that is terrifying. Michael Schumacher, lap 39.
We can see on a monitor outside on the circuit here that Mika Häkkinen went straight on into Mirabeau. So Häkkinen, I think he has rejoined the racetrack. We haven't seen it yet on our terrestrial feed, but looking at a diamond screen outside, I'm sure I saw Häkkinen down an escape road. So let's see if we get a replay of that. But I'll tell you what his time loss was next time past the pits.
Well, it will compound the problem. In the second sector, he was nearly 20 seconds slower than he had been in the past. So are the McLarens having a brake problem as well? That's Marc Genet in the cap, who retired a long time ago. Now, listen to the retirements we now have. That is Mika Häkkinen, incidentally. And I'm looking to see whether Eddie Irvine goes through into second place. Is it going to be Ferrari first and Ferrari second? Mika Häkkinen, no, it isn't. There's Irvine still in the background. So I don't know what happened there, because Häkkinen certainly lost time.
Yes, but don't forget Irvine had made that pit stop, which must have cost him 22 or 23 seconds. So what's happened here is that, yes, it's a 1 minute 40, so he lost 18 seconds on that. It wasn't enough to put him. There he is.
There it is.
That's, he's reversing out of the escape road down into Mirabeau. No problem there. Keeps the engine running, selects first, and on his way. But he's just given, effectively, Eddie Irvine a free pit stop. And more importantly, Michael Schumacher a free pit stop.
Moot point there, Martin. As you well know, you are not allowed to reverse on the circuit. Might there be a protest?
No, you're not allowed to reverse in the pit lane. You can reverse on the circuit. You're not allowed to be pushed by the marshals. But I think that, yes, I mean, it's a point actually. Takagi, of course, had just blown up and gone down there. So I don't know whether Häkkinen caught a bit of his oil and water from the arrows blowing up.
Well, let's gather breath and see what's happening. This is lap 41. You're watching race leader Michael Schumacher, who is 45 seconds ahead. He can come in, take on tyres and fuel, decarbonise the engine, more or less whatever he likes, and still get out in the lead. And Mika Häkkinen there, with Eddie Irvine having stopped and refueled, is still only a couple of seconds ahead of the third place Ferrari. And Mika Häkkinen has yet to make a stop, and Eddie Irvine has made one. Rubens Barrichello is up into 4th place. Frentzen is up into 5th place. Eddie Jordan's prophecy may yet come true. A podium. 5th for Frentzen, 6th is Fisichella, 7th is Jarno Trulli ahead of Wurz and Alesi. Pedro Diniz is 10th, Zanardi is 11th. There are 16 drivers left in the race, and the retirements in order are... No, you go, Martin.
Yeah, sorry, did you see Hakkinen giving the normal line into Mirabel, completely wide berth? Clearly he spun on the oil from Takagi's car and was very, very slow into that corner. Mika can't afford to be as cautious as that, because really the Ferraris have completely got the upper hand now. Sorry, Murray.
Well, there were Marshall's flags, so he would have spotted those, and Michael Schumacher, of course, will need to keep a very weather eye open for that. Eddie Irvine closing all the time on Mika Hakkinen, and when Mika Hakkinen does come in, Eddie Irvine is bound to go through into 2nd place. More news from James Allen.
Well, Ferrari are about to bring Michael Schumacher in. I've just timed the gaps, and if he comes in, he'll get back out on the track in front of Jean Alesi, and there are no other bank markers anywhere near him, so this is a perfect moment to make that stop for Ferrari.
Good, thank you, James, as Hakkinen and Irvine go through to complete their 41st lap up to Sandravot. In 2nd and 3rd places. The gap between them and Barrichello is 24 seconds. And it was the year before last, when Stewart made their Grand Prix debut at Monaco, that Barrichello got that magnificent 2nd position. He could still finish on the podium. This is a team which is really going places with the new Ford engine, and we look down at the Ferrari. Is he coming in? Turns very close indeed to the barrier and dives into the pit lane. James Allen, Schumacher's on his way.
Very much indeed, Murray. 6.9 seconds, the amazing stop that Eddie Irvine made. Ferrari don't need to rush this one, however. I've got the upper hand here this afternoon. It all looks very smooth to me. The fuel goes in. That'll take him to the end of the race. And, well, what can stop him, Murray?
I wouldn't think very much if the car stays as reliable as it has done. Michael Schumacher, already a 3-times winner at Monaco, goes out of the pit lane very cautiously indeed. Mika Hakkinen was 47 seconds behind him. But
Yellow flag's waving there, so I don't know if somebody else has gone up the escape road, but 9.9 seconds of fuel taken on board. Yes, that's a Prost disappearing up there. Don't know if he's locked a brake or he's got an engine problem, bit of smoke trailing out of the back. But 9.9 seconds worth of fuel. They are just over half distance. I don't expect to see Michael back in the pits again now until after this race is finished. But we are literally just over half distance, so lots can happen yet. But look, Irvine just chasing down that McLaren. So much more confidence in the braking area to carry the speed into the corner, knowing he won't understeer. The front won't slide into the barrier. The Ferrari looking good.
And David Coulthard, of course, if you missed it, has retired. And just one McLaren left in the race again. This is the 4th race in succession that McLarens have only had one car, and it's still yet to go a long way. 78-lap race. Irvine pushing tremendously hard. His car wags its front as he comes out of the portier, and now Irvine is making his challenge for 2nd place. He'll get that for sure, as I said earlier, when Mika Hakkinen comes in to make his pit stop. But Schumacher has stopped, Eddie Irvine has stopped, Coulthard is out of the race, Mika Hakkinen has got a red McLaren right up behind him, and now you saw the Ferrari mechanics in the pit lane there as the 2nd and 3rd men go through the swimming pool area.
Well, we think Irvine's on a 2-stopper, so they may choose to pull him in. It may seem very early. There's the Ferrari mechanics coming up. I wonder if they're thinking of pulling Irvine in to give him some track position again. They both now got to stop once, so it's even Stevens, although Hakkinen's got to stop for longer because he needs to take on board a little bit more fuel. Yeah. But that'll be an interesting strategy. Quite brave there from Ferrari. They're definitely getting the bull by the horns. Or the prancing horse by the horns, I should say. What am I talking about?
Olivier Panis out of the race, the Monaco Grand Prix winner of 1996. And you heard Jim Rosenthal say before the race began that the truly greats win at Monaco. Ayrton Senna won 6 times, and Michael Schumacher has won 3 times. Alain Prost won 4 times, and there is Fisichella in from 6th position in the Benetton, and he should get out before Jarno Trulli in the sole remaining Prost. 13 out of the 22 starters are still left in the Monaco Grand Prix, with 35 laps to go, as Alexander Wurz in the other Benetton, who was in 8th position and is now therefore in 7th place, takes his teammate Fisichella, and Irvine still tucked up behind Häkkinen.
Apparently, James had found out down in the pits that Michael radioed in suspecting a problem with his new tyres, and then decided they were okay after all. That's why we saw the Ferrari tyres out of the pit lane, Irvine giving it plenty into the pit straight, but that's why we saw the Ferrari mechanics come out. They've now retreated and taken the tyres away. Michael says it's okay.
Never ceases to amaze me, Martin, that a car can handle beautifully on one set of tyres. They come in and take on another set, and then it's all gone to pot.
Yeah, it's surprising what a difference it makes. I wonder if Irvine actually just clipped the barrier on the inside there on the way.
I think he just stayed clear, actually.
That corner, but yes, it's surprising. In theory, they shouldn't. I mean, it's highly complex, the compounding and the construction of the tyres. It's very scientific, and it's surprising that they do vary. But at the end of the day, it is a chemical reaction between the rubber and the racetrack, and you do get variations. And of course, they're not always exactly the same circumference either, and you can get the car handling slightly different. There's David Coulthard, and to quote Murray Walker, if he didn't have bad luck, he'd have no luck at all.
Absolutely. There's Mika Häkkinen, just one McLaren left in the race. Into the pits comes Alex Wurz now. He goes back again, and that, as Martin has pointed out many times in the past, that black smoke is actually brake dust from the carbon discs as they take the wheels off. Wurz goes out. We're on lap 46 now at Monaco. Michael Schumacher, who has made his pit stop, is nevertheless 23 seconds ahead of Mika Häkkinen, who has not stopped. Eddie Irvine is right behind the McLaren. There he is, and he has stopped. Rubens Barrichello is 49 seconds behind Schumacher, 25 seconds behind Eddie Irvine in the background there in 4th place. Frentzen is 5th, Jarno Trulli in 6th position. Fisichella is in 7th place, but Wurz has slipped to 9th because Jean Alesi, who has yet to stop, has gone up into 8th place. Pedro Diniz is 10th, Zanardi is 11th, Ralf Schumacher is 12th, Panis is just retired, so there are 12 of 22 starters left, and Michael Schumacher has lapped everybody up to Giancarlo Fisichella in the Benetton, who is 7th. Weather remains, as you can see, absolutely perfect.
Now Eddie Irvine, the only British driver left in this race. Just to remind you, Damon Hill, somewhat over-ambitious early in the race and tripping over Ralf Schumacher, breaking the suspension. Johnny Herbert's rear suspension failing, and I'm pretty certain that Coulthard's engine ran out of oil finally, and you can only keep it cool for so long on its water or its oil, but if you lose one or the other, you're soon going to end up with a box of bits. James is with DC. David Coulthard, we believe.
David, 2 years in a row, you've had engine problems here at Monaco. You must be really disappointed today.
Yeah, I'm very disappointed because I was getting into a comfortable pace out there, and then I developed a problem with the gearbox, and it just wouldn't down change, and then eventually it jammed in gears. So clearly you can't race this circuit without gears.
So the blue smoke we saw coming out the back of the car wasn't the engine?
No, I was losing gearbox oil, so as soon as it ran out of oil, then it ran out of gears.
Bad luck.
Thanks.
Well, it's a good time in the race to hypothesise about what might happen in the championships. At the present moment, Michael Schumacher is 4 points in this race ahead of Mika Häkkinen. If he wins, he gets 10 points. If Mika Häkkinen finishes second, which is by no means certain, he would get 6. And Michael Schumacher is already leading Mika Häkkinen by 6 points, so he's looking in a very strong position as we ride with Jean Alesi. Martin, you want to talk about him?
Yes, first time we've been on board with Alesi this weekend. He's currently down in 8th place, lapping in the 1:23s, and hasn't yet stopped, so plenty of fuel capacity in that Sauber without any doubt. They're going reasonably well, but unfortunately Alesi and in 8th and Diniz in 9th, populating the tail end of the top 10, and they both yet to stop, and that leaves Fisichella 7th, chasing Trulli in 6th for the current championship points. But nonetheless, Alesi knows his way round here pretty well. We're heading up into Massenet now, and watch the barrier on the left. You've got all the grips on the inside, and it just jumps out through Casino Square, over the top. The back end will get light, and now down into a Mirabeau. Take a little bit curb on the inside, and it just hooks up, catapults you down the hill. And sometimes you just hook the rear wheel over that curve, it'll bring you around. But Alesi's car turning nicely across the pavement, get the car straight before you squirt the throttle. Portier, where Senna crashed a few years ago, very easy to slap the barrier on the inside. You head into the tunnel, 160 miles an hour through the curve, and I can tell you, you suck air through your teeth every time you go through there. We're going to take a short break.
To go at Monaco. Michael Schumacher has stopped. Michael Schumacher leads this battle by 20 seconds. And this battle, Mika Häkkinen in the McLaren in second place. Yet to stop. He's leaving it very, very late indeed. Eddie Irvine, who has stopped, behind him in third position. Rubens Barrichello is having a terrific scrap now for fourth position with Heinz-Harald Frentzen. There's only 1 second between the Stewart and the Jordan, and in sixth place, the last point-scoring position, as the McLaren and the Ferrari go into the chicane and out of it, is occupied by Jarno Trulli in the Prost. Prost have got just one World Championship point this year. Trulli was the man who scored it. Olivier Panis is being cast deeper and deeper into the shadows, and we believe that Mika Häkkinen is coming in this time, in which case Eddie Irvine will go up into second position. Häkkinen in, Irvine second.
Now the big question now is how much fuel is in that Ferrari of Irvine's. I suspect he may have to come in again, unless they started it quite heavy and they decided to short stop. Häkkinen seemed to take a long time to get away there. It didn't seem to be in first go, just didn't seem to be able to get the car up and running. But has Irvine got to come in again? If not, we're looking at a Ferrari 1-2.
As Häkkinen emerges just in front, just behind Zanardi, and that is Diniz in the Sauber, running straight on at Sandoval. He'll probably spin-turn. Oh no, he won't spin-turn it. He nerfs it into the barrier, it looked to me, as though the shot finished just before. I'm not sure. Barrichello in the pits.
Yes, fifth place man. He is now Barrichello into the pits. So Frentzen's taken over that fourth place temporarily. Frentzen also yet to stop. So several of the teams did make it to lap 50 before they had to pit. Yellow flag waving. That's for Diniz up the escape road.
Well, if Eddie Irvine is in a reliable Ferrari and has not two stopping, and we think he is, as Alesi jostles the Sauber through the chicane, if Eddie Irvine is not to stopping, he's going to finish second in this race, assuming Michael Schumacher wins it.
Lacey's going very slowly. Lacey very slow here. It's his out lap, but I'm half expecting him to. We think he's whacked the barrier at Casino Square. We didn't see. I certainly didn't see it happen, but I think Lacey could well be about to retire from this race.
I think he's coming in. He's coming in. Yeah, Lacey turns into the pit lane. He was in 10th place. If he's out of the race, there's only going to be 11 left in it. Frantic activity at the stage. He's just been in, of course, and they're having to get tyres out of the blankets.
Yeah, so that's both Saubers gone off on the same lap. We saw Dinitz go up the escape road, or was it Lacey going up the escape road and hitting the wall? I'm pretty certain it was Dinitz that went up there. So both Saubers out of the race. Well, he's not out of the races, he's carrying on. So I don't quite know what Lacey's problem was. All four wheels appear to be pointing roughly in the same direction, and he rejoins the racetrack. Maybe there's a puncture.
Lap 52 as the Ferrari mechanics assemble in the pit lane. Does that mean to say that Eddie Irvine is coming in? He came in on lap 38. This is lap 52. There he is. And he's in second position, and this should mean that Mika Häkkinen will get back into second position if Eddie Irvine is coming in.
Well, he's 23.2 seconds ahead. He's not coming in the pit lane this time. They're his tyres that are laying in the pit lane. 23.2 ahead of Mika Häkkinen, who's having a very slow lap.
Lacey out.
Häkkinen lost 4 seconds on the last lap. Lacey clearly came in the pits for something a bit more than a fresh set of boots, and retiring from the race.
That's the Café de Paris on the right-hand side behind the marshal, so it happened at Casino Square, whatever it was. And is that a clip? No, Lacey touring it. But so now there are 11 left in the Monaco Grand Prix with 26 laps left. Michael Schumacher leading his teammate, Ferrari first and second, as the Ferrari mechanics go back into the garage. There is Pedro Diniz, who was in 12th place. So both Saubers are out of this race. We've got both Ferraris left, first and second. One McLaren left, third. One Jordan left, Frentzen, who's now fourth. One Stewart left, which is Barrichello, fifth. One Prost left, which is Jarno Trulli, who is in sixth place. Both Benettons are still running, 7th and 8th, Fisichella and Wurz. One Williams left, 2 Williams left. Zanardi is 9th, Schumacher is 10th, and they're coming towards us is Michael Schumacher and the Ferrari mechanics out again.
Yes, we're still thinking it's for Eddie Irvine. Michael Schumacher not going very quickly, Murray. Michael Schumacher not going quickly at all. He's coasting. That is Schumacher, isn't it?
It is Schumacher.
He's coasting. Maybe there. That's what the scrambles in the pit. So
now, what could that be? I mean, they're obviously out to put new tyres and wheels on. I can't see anything wrong with the car.
He's got a problem because he wouldn't. If he was on an in-lap, he'd be absolutely on the ragged edge as ever. So Michael Schumacher coasting. Is he coasting into retirement?
Well, he's coasting pretty quick down to the chicane. You can judge the speed better than I can, though. And here's Häkkinen. Let's see the gap. The gap between, well, Häkkinen and Irvine are both closing on Schumacher. No doubt about that at all. Mika Häkkinen has made his stop. Schumacher has made a stop. Irvine has made a stop. Heinz-Harald Frentzen, who is fourth, has yet to stop as into the pits comes, or into the pits now is Ralf Schumacher from 10th position. Out he goes. Well, it's starting to get dramatic again here at Monaco. Lap 54, 78 lap race. Has Schumacher got a problem? Is he coming in? If so, when? Now.
You were right, Murray. I was wrong. He was going quicker than... He's nowhere near his initial early pace. He's definitely not attacking the racetrack. That is absolutely clear to see. But it was a 24.3 for Michael, a couple of seconds off the pace. I don't really know why he's going that slowly.
Well, Mika Häkkinen is closing on Irvine. Irvine was closing on Schumacher. We'll get the true picture at the end of this lap, and it's very soon. Now, Michael Schumacher was 21 seconds ahead of Irvine, who was 23 seconds ahead of Mika Häkkinen. Mika Häkkinen goes through and crosses the line and goes into a new lap, and he's definitely speeding up. Mika Häkkinen has made a very quick lap, and Louise Goodman is with Johnny Herbert again.
Johnny, as Murray says, I'm with you again. Johnny, 3 wheels on your wagon. What happened? Did you clip a barrier earlier on or something?
No, I didn't have anything like that. It just seemed as if it failed, which we've obviously got to look at. But it's just a bit of a shame happening that early in the race. And I suppose the thing that would have been nice this time would be nice to finish. And I've yet to do that. I've got close, but most of them haven't been anywhere near.
Must have given you a bit of a wake-up call.
Well, in some ways, it was very fortunate that it happened exactly where it did, because I was lucky enough I got it under control, but if it happened at the exit of the tunnel, it could have been a different matter, so thankfully it wasn't.
Cheers, Johnny. I'll see you at the end of the race one day.
Yeah, one day.
Well, Michael Schumacher still dropping 2 seconds a lap from his ultimate pace. Okay, he's got some time back. He's got 42 seconds back to Mika Häkkinen. He's certainly got some time in his pocket, but I still don't understand why he's going quite that slowly. And Häkkinen's obviously been given the hurry-up sign anyway from the team. They know he's got to really push in this section to make sure he gets track position on Eddie Irvine. If, indeed, I think McLaren think like I do, that Irvine probably has got to stop again, but they might have outsmarted us and had a lot of fuel in that car at the beginning of the race, because we know that he probably pitted early to try to make some track position, and they short-filled it, but maybe had enough to go the distance.
Alex Wurz in 8th position gets the blue flags, and Hastings moves over. They've all had a wigging from the headmaster about what happened in the San Marino Grand Prix, and the Ferrari dives through. The Ferrari driven by Eddie Irvine there in 2nd position, just over 20 seconds behind Michael Schumacher. And we're on lap 56 now, 22 to go. It's still a long way. You've seen that 11 cars have retired. Well, 12 cars have retired from this race now, with Jean Alesi being out of it. And they're very, very hardly stretched.
Ferrari in the pits.
It comes from James, it's yours.
Well, I tell you something, Murray, it's not often that Ferrari drop the ball when it comes to tactics, but these mechanics have been standing in the pit lane now for 3 laps. Stefano Domenicali, the team manager, has been expecting Irvine, but he's not been coming in. On the Schumacher front, I'm convinced he has got a problem. I think it's something to do with hydraulics, gear change, something like that. There's some unhappy-looking people at Ferrari, but I think they've put it into a recovery programme. I'll let Martin explain what that is.
Okay, it appears to me that Irvine is out in front of the McLaren. Yes, he is indeed. So Irvine keeps track position. He had 20.9 seconds to play with, and ahead of Mika Häkkinen, and Häkkinen not being able to put the sprint in he needed to do. Eddie Irvine, a strong 2nd and track position.
Well, if Schumacher's got a problem, are we going to see Eddie Irvine win a 2nd Grand Prix this year? The man who won in Australia, as Ralf Schumacher loses it, wham bang, into the barrier at the Grand Hotel corner, and that is another retirement. He was in 10th position, so there are only 9 left now. One of them is his teammate Zanardi, who is running last.
Michael Schumacher just done the fastest section of the entire race in the mid part of the lap. So whatever, if indeed he did have a problem, whatever it was, he's happier with it again. But it seems strange. Something's going on, because as James pointed out, the Ferrari mechanics were studying tyres. They were hovering. They were waiting before they brought Irvine in. And I wonder. Remember, Michael called in pretty early when he left, didn't he, with this set of tyres, to say that he wasn't initially happy. But we're going to take a quick break. Be back very shortly.
laps to go. Here is Schumacher leading by 37 seconds, but Eddie Irvine is catching him slowly.
He's stroking it. Michael's just playing with it, I think. I don't think he has necessarily got a problem. Look at him, he's nowhere near the barriers. He's not attacking the corners, he's not moving the steering wheel hardly. He's just, I misread that as Michael having some kind of problem, I think. Well, but he's just stroking it.
Here's a wild one for you. Remember Michael Schumacher in that incredible Spanish Grand Prix when he was driving for Benetton, when he got stuck in 5th gear and he very quickly adjusted in his tactics and his lines, hardly lost any lap time at all. I'm not suggesting he's stuck in 5th gear here, but he might have a problem which he's driving round.
I've been listening to it. Listen to him come out of here. They didn't follow it, but he's changing gear fine. I was listening to it on the previous lap. So he lost 2 seconds to Irvine on that. There's 20 laps to go, 19 laps to go. He's got a 35-second lead, and he's losing 2 seconds a lap. But he appears to be just stroking it. Let's wait and see. But at the moment, he needs to be thankful that Häkkinen has tucked up behind his teammates Ferrari.
Well, in 1988, Ayrton Senna in the McLaren had a massive lead over Alain Prost, his teammate, and he slowed down, he lost concentration, he went into the barrier coming out of the portiere just before the tunnel and lost the race. So you can't afford to relax too much, but Michael Schumacher is an extremely experienced and competent driver. This is his 121st Grand Prix. I can't imagine him making a mistake like that. It was Ayrton Senna's first year in a potentially winning car.
It's Barrichello's 100th Grand Prix too, and he's having another good run, still in 5th place. Somehow or other Frenzen's pace through the mid part of the race has put him ahead of Barrichello. So Michael Schumacher, Eddie Irvine, Mika Häkkinen, Frentzen in 4th, Barrichello 5th, and Fisichella currently looking at that final World Championship point with Trulli behind him, some 19 seconds.
Eddie Irvine that you're watching has gained 3 seconds on Michael Schumacher. Now there are 18 laps left, and if he continued to gain at that rate, which would surprise me, he would be up with Michael Schumacher, and I have no doubt that he would stay there. In its contract it says, thou shalt finish second to Michael Schumacher, all things being equal, which of course they aren't in the Ferrari team, and Eddie would dutifully follow his team leader home. There's been a lot of controversy about that, but Ferrari pay the drivers and they can tell their employees exactly how they want them to work. And in their case, since they pay Michael Schumacher £25 million a year, £25 million a year, they're entitled to say, you win, Eddie Irvine will finish second. That wasn't the case in Australia, of course, because the circumstances were so different.
Well, Michael Schumacher has won 34 Grand Prix from his 121 starts. If he wins today, he'll become the most successful Ferrari driver ever, with 16 wins at the wheel of a Ferrari, beating Niki Lauda on 15.
Beating the great Niki Lauda, that's right, from Austria. As we look at Heinz-Harald Frentzen, who is still in 4th position, just off the podium. Lap 62, race order. Schumacher leads Irvine, Ferrari leads Ferrari by 33 seconds. Häkkinen is dropping back from Irvine. His challenge seems to have been completed. He's now over 6 seconds behind. As on the right, Pedro de la Rosa, on the left, Tora Takagi walk in the 2 Arrows drivers out of the race. That is Rubens Barrichello, and we should therefore soon see Giancarlo Fisichella. There he is. Fisichella is now pushing Barrichello for 5th position. There is the Stewart Ford. Barrichello finished second the year before last here at Monaco. He's had an absolutely super season because the Ford driver from Brazil was 3rd in the San Marino Grand Prix. He was 5th in Australia. He failed to finish in Brazil, but he looks as though he's going to be in the points here at Monaco for 2 years out of 3.
Well, you can see now what it cost Häkkinen with that trip up the escape road, because otherwise he'd have been some 12 seconds ahead of Eddie Irvine at this point, with Irvine having to do the chasing and the passing. So Häkkinen, one small slip on that oil of Takagi. That's Jean Alesi making his way back to the pits, looking pretty hot. And remember, he broke down right at the end of the race last year, didn't he?
Yeah, he was sitting on his helmet just right by the TV compound, actually, looking very disconsolate. He's not looking much happier this year. Michael Schumacher exits the chicane with that over 30-second lead on his 63rd lap. A 3 times winner already. I was talking earlier on about the effect of this race on the Drivers' and Constructors' Championships at a time when Schumacher was leading and Irvine was 3rd. Now Irvine is up to 2nd place, and the potential score for Ferrari is 16 points, 10 for 1st, 6 for 2nd, and Mika Häkkinen is on only 4 points at the moment.
Well, just to confirm that Michael is playing around, I suspect what they did is told him to cool it, and he cooled it, and as ever around here, you lose a lot more time than you think. Put Michael back in the 24s and 25s, but just to show the rest of them not to bother to chase too hard, he pops a 1 minute 23.2 in with yet another new faster section in mid-lap, so Michael doesn't appear to have too many serious problems, and that's Jarno Trulli having just recovered from the escape road, and then Wirtz will then have taken over his 7th place. So Wirtz up to 7th, Fisichella still 6th, just 2.9 seconds behind Barrichello. Going to take a quick break.
Mika Häkkinen in 3rd position, and there's that gurney flap that it was on Fisichella's car, actually. That one is on Wirtz's. It too has come up. But with 2 Ferraris ahead of the McLaren, Martin, I think I know what Ron Dennis, the boss of McLaren, will say. He will say, yeah, it's not been a good season for us in spite of the good new car. And it was certainly a very poor Monaco. There's only one solution, though. We'll go back to the factory and work harder.
Yes, I know. I think he'll be somewhat more concerned than that, though, even Murray, because this will be, if they win, this will be the 2nd race where Ferrari have won it on sheer speed. And that hasn't been the case for some months now in terms of anything other than Schumacher's brilliance. The Ferrari car appears now to be faster.
They've worked so hard on this car year after year. Ferrari have said this year is for consolidation, next year we will win, and year after year that hasn't happened. It looked as though it might happen last year, and they had problems at the end of the season and didn't achieve the championship, which McLaren did so well. But this year they are looking very strong indeed, and that's thanks to this. You're watching Heinz-Harald Frentzen, incidentally, in 4th position. He's 13 seconds ahead of Barrichello, and he is 21 seconds behind Mika Häkkinen. He's actually catching Mika Häkkinen at the rate of nearly 2 seconds a lap at the present moment, but it's not going to be enough in the time that's left unless Häkkinen starts going even slower.
Yeah, I think Häkkinen had traffic on that lap. I think that's because he's resumed his normal speed, Murray, but Frentzen has been storming all weekend, really driving the wheels of that thing.
Yeah, and talking about comparisons, what a different man Heinz-Harald Frentzen is in the Jordan team, because frankly one has to say that for reasons that weren't altogether Damon Hill's fault, Damon is having to take second place to Heinz-Harald Frentzen this year. Frentzen second in Australia, third in Brazil.
Look at Michael. Michael can't go slow enough. He's saying, where are you guys? Come on, at least give me a little push today. Let me break into some sweat, because he's just cruising round.
Well, 1:23.9 his previous lap was. And he's going through and completing the lap. Meantime, Häkkinen goes fastest of all in the first sector. And he is 8th. Irvine is starting to catch Schumacher. Häkkinen is catching Irvine. We may well have, and I'm not making this up, I promise you, a much more exciting finish to the Monaco Grand Prix than we were expecting.
Yes, it's always a bit dangerous to do what Mika Häkkinen looks like he's about to do, and 67 laps into a 78-lap race suddenly start going an awful lot faster, because your paymasters ask you the inevitable question, what were you doing earlier in the race? Let's see what kind of lap time he pulls out of the bag here, but it could be quite a spectacular sort of low 22, or even a very, very late 22.2, a new fastest lap of the race, and as I said, they might be wondering why he didn't do that a touch earlier. Brings the gap down to Eddie Irvine in second place to 7.5 seconds.
0.7 of a second faster than his own fastest lap last year. The all-time fastest lap here at Monaco was put up by the man you're looking at, Michael Schumacher, as long ago as 1994 in the Benetton, but it was a 3.5-litre car. It had all the modern gizmos that they don't have now. It had slick tyres. And that was a speed of 91.8 miles an hour, and that is a mile an hour faster than Häkkinen's fastest lap last year. Doesn't sound very much, but that is a great deal at Monaco. And James Allen has news for us in the pits.
Well, Murray, I've had the pleasure of watching this entire race from the McLaren Mercedes timing stand, and when that lap of Mika Häkkinen's went in, Jürgen Hubbard, who's the boss of Mercedes, just sunk his head down on the top of the monitor and put his hands over the top of it. I think what Martin was just saying a second ago is exactly what was going through his mind too.
Yes, and you have to be a pretty tough man to be the head man of Mercedes, but I don't think that Mika Häkkinen will be required to report to his study. It will be Ron Dennis's, if anybody. Meantime, Mika Häkkinen has got the gap down to Eddie Irvine, down to 7.5 seconds on the previous lap. Schumacher and Irvine have gone through. And paradoxically, the gap has increased now. It's up to 8.4 seconds. Irvine seems to be replying. He's continuing to close on Schumacher, but he's still 34 seconds behind him. But he's increased the gap between himself and Mika Häkkinen by 0.7 of a second. At the moment, all looks well for Ferrari in the lead. Ferrari second.
Yeah, bizarre. Häkkinen lost 1.5 seconds between those two laps. I didn't see any traffic that was going to interrupt his flow, so very much yo-yoing around the time scale is Mika Häkkinen at the moment, but it all looks pretty status quo. Fisichella dropping back away from Barrichello. Barrichello in 5th, Fisichella in 6th, just slightly dropping away from him.
Just as a matter of interest, the races have to run the full distance, which in the case of Monaco is 78 laps, or 2 hours, depending which happens first. Monaco is always a very long race. It was 1 hour and 51 minutes last year, and we've got just over 22 minutes to the 2 hours at the present moment, and there's 9 laps to go, including the one that they are on, as Michael Schumacher leads Eddie Irvine. Ferrari leads Ferrari. 16 potential World Championship points for the Maranello concern. Another 10 potential World Championship points from a second successive victory for Michael Schumacher, and it would be his 4th win at Monaco. Eddie Irvine in a superb second place. I said earlier that I thought Eddie Irvine over the last 2 years was the most improved driver of all, and considering that he's been driving extremely well for Ferrari, that's about the biggest compliment I think I can pay him.
Yes, and I think you'd be largely right, but I have a feeling that Rubens Barrichello and Heinz-Harald Frentzen are probably taking over that mantle, actually. In fact, all three of them are doing an excellent job, and it's no surprise to find them second, fourth and fifth, and putting in another very strong performance on this, probably the most challenging of racetracks.
Lap 71 now for Michael Schumacher, the race leader, as the Ferrari comes up behind the sole remaining Prost, that of Jarno Trulli, who is in 8th position, and the Ferrari is that of Eddie Irvine, who is in 3rd position. So Trulli is going to be lapped a second time now by Eddie Irvine going through.
Just 9 runners then, 9 runners with 8 laps to go, and that's pretty normal for this circuit, you have to say.
Absolutely. I mean, I've just tried. I think there was one year when only 5 people finished, and everybody therefore who finished got World Championship points. And I remember Denny Helm one year came in and had an enormously long pit stop. That is Schumacher going through and lapping Rubens Barrichello, who is in 5th position. And to finish my story, they practically rebuilt Denny Helm's car, and he still came in and finished and got World Championship points. Replay.
Yes, and Barrichello staying on the racing lines, lifting off the throttle and saying to Schumacher, OK, right, you're going to have to go the long and dirty way round, but at least he led him through smoothly.
Which gave Fisichella the opportunity to close up just a little. So there is Schumacher. Now,
yes, Fisichella, look, just 0.9 of a second, Murray, behind Rubens Barrichello. So really, now the last scrap in the top 6, and Barrichello being very, very kind there under the blue flags has allowed Fisichella to home right in on his gearbox. I have a feeling Barrichello's car is slightly the faster, though.
Fisichella was 2nd last year. He loves this Monaco circuit, drives extremely well at it. And what a rejuvenated car the Benetton is too. They've had a pretty torrid season this year, but they went away to Nogaro, which is a twisty circuit in the south of France, between San Marino and here, to get ready for this circuit. They've done a lot of work on the aerodynamics and the suspension, and it certainly seems to be paying off as Fisichella closes on 5th place Barrichello.
Yes, I think the problem they've got is the Supertech engine has got not quite enough horsepower, but I think probably more importantly is a lot heavier. Some of these cars are running 40-odd kilos of lead. I suspect that's White Stewart you can see there, which they can place right on the floor of the car, distribute it as they want, get the centre of gravity down, and it helps you enormously through the corners, especially with these grooved tyres. And Barrichello's engine could well be something like 25 kilos lighter than that Supertech in the back of the Benetton, and of course also in the BAR and Williams. And I think that's not just raw horsepower, there's other elements, the laws of physics, that are holding those 3 teams back.
Yes, and allegedly the Ford engine is a lot more powerful than the Supertech as well. Indeed, it is said that it is second only to the Mercedes-Benz in the McLaren cars. And Michael Schumacher is now on his 73rd lap, coming home potentially, and I'm not going to say he's going to win this race because he's still got those 5 laps still to do at the end of this one. And there was one year when Jack Brabham was being chased very hard by Jochen Rindt, and Jack got down to the last corner of the last lap and ran off. Ron Dennis on the left, the boss of McLaren, Jean Todt, the boss of Ferrari, looking at their monitors. And Jack Brabham went into the barrier, and Jochen Rindt nipped through and beat him in the closing yards of the race, never mind the closing laps. But you have to say, whoa, bang, 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 and that is Barrichello.
I think that's the last part of the second part of the swimming pool. We heard the skid marks long before this car, didn't we? And that's Barrichello. I think he's dropped it out of the fast part of the swimming pool and finally had his accident. Yeah, there he goes, off the curb, loses the back end, took too much curb, pushing too hard. Now, young Fisichella behind him there, putting him under pressure. Barrichello trying to pull away, having lost time, being lapped by Michael Schumacher, reverses it heavily into the barriers, and that's a certain 5th place out of the window. Good night, 2 points.
Great news for Benetton, terrible news for Stewart, of course, but great news for Benetton. It means that Fisichella goes up to 5th position, and his teammate Alex Wurz goes up to 6th position. It looks as though they're both going to finish in the points.
Well, We saw Häkkinen coming in there. Häkkinen would have seen the yellow flags and saying to himself, please let it be a Ferrari. Please let it be Schumacher's Ferrari. But when he got there, in fact, it's interesting to sit and watch a driver sitting at that point with a chromed helmet. Remember Lacey turned up with a chromed helmet last year, stopped exactly there and had no luck whatsoever.
Just have a painted job, seems to be the moral of the story. That's what Michael Schumacher's got. He had a fancy one, the end race of last year, but he's reverted to his original one, and he's now on his 74th lap with the yellow flags waving to warn him to take it easy because there's a problem, and the problem, of course, is Rubens Barrichello's Stewart, as through to complete his 74th lap. 4 times 2.09 miles left for Michael Schumacher, and this is going to be, if it continues to go the way it's going now, a crushing victory for Ferrari, a crushing defeat for McLaren. And there's a lot of people here who are going to be very pleased about that, because Monaco is very close to Italy. There's a gigantic Ferrari following worldwide. There's a sad Rubens Barrichello watches Mika Häkkinen to go through. And the Ferrari tifosi all around the world will certainly be very, very happy if Maranello are first and second.
Now, Barrichello didn't have that bottle of water in his pocket. The marshals are great. They're always first there with as cold a bottle of water as they can find you, and often a towel, and they really do look after you well while you're sitting there reflecting on what might have been.
Well, the Eddie Jordan prophecy is only one place off being fulfilled as you watch Heinz Harald Frentzen. Eddie Jordan said to me, at least a podium, and Heinz Harald Frentzen is in 4th position, 18 seconds behind Mika Häkkinen, but he is not catching him. It's yet another great drive for Frentzen in his new team. He was second in Australia, he was third in Brazil. He failed to finish at Imola, but could well have been on the podium if he had. So he's going to be a very proud man at the end of this race. Rubens Barrichello reflecting on his 100th Grand Prix, all having gone pear-shaped. What a pity for him. As Schumacher climbs the hill, this is his 76th lap. 2 more to go at the end of this one. Race order. Michael Schumacher leads Eddie Irvine by over 30 seconds. Mika Häkkinen is a further 8 seconds behind. Heinz Harald Frentzen is 4th, 18 seconds behind Häkkinen. Fisichella has been lapped by Schumacher, but is 5th. Wurz, of course, has been lapped, is 6th, and there are only 2 other runners of the 22 who started. Jarno Trulli is 7th, and Zanardi looks as though he is going to finish his first Grand Prix for Williams in 8th place, 2 laps down.
These last few laps take an eternity to go here at Monaco. It just seems the race goes on forever. 1 hour 51 minutes, as you said last year. I know of no other activity or sport of any kind that puts the same mental and at the same time physical pressure on the body, and you just can't wait for the flag to come out now, and you can really see all these drivers sort of almost going into survival mode now for these last 3 laps.
That's why Michael Schumacher, and all the others for that matter, make sure they stay as fit as they possibly can. The great Enzo Ferrari's study at Maranello, his office at Maranello, has been turned into a private gym for Michael Schumacher, who actually has a transporter fitted out as a gymnasium which goes around with him, and he is absolutely mega fit. And that is Alexander Wurz in 6th position, hanging on for that last World Championship point, which is going to enable the Benetton team in the Constructors' Championship to move ahead of Stewart and probably ahead of Williams as well, because there's no points for the Williams team. Zanardi is out of the points in 8th position. Schumacher, Ralph, retired a long time ago. So it looks to me as though the Constructors' Championship is going to read Ferrari, McLaren, Jordan, and then probably Benetton, who would be delighted to have moved up 2 places. But it certainly looks now, as Michael Schumacher comes through to complete his 77th lap and start his 78th and last lap, as though he's going to make it 4 wins at Monaco to join, well, he was one of the greats anyway, but he's going to be joining the great Alain Prost on 4 championship wins at Monaco to underline the reputation of this great race and, of course, himself.
Well, I can only think of one word to summarise this performance by Michael Schumacher and the Ferrari is whitewash, really. That's the only word I can think of. He's just been cruising away at the front. He's had it completely under control, and I would think he's thinking, you know, how can they go so slow? He's just absolutely, look, he's nowhere near any curbs, any barriers, anything, just stroking it down the hill, and it's just coming to him so easily.
He took the lead from second position on the grid. He was fastest in every practice session, and the only session he wasn't fastest in was the one that mattered most, qualifying, but he was only 7/100ths of a second slower than Häkkinen after a superb effort by the Finn. There is the master tactician, Ross Brawn, sitting impassively as he always does in his position in the pit lane, supervising the drive by his driver. And if he says to Michael Schumacher during a race, you've got to get 20 seconds in the next 14 laps, Schumacher will do it. He doesn't have to in this race. Michael Schumacher is into the swimming pool complex, the last few corners for the 78th and last time. Down to the Rashcash, he's going to stretch his lead in the World Championship with a 4th victory at Monaco, 1994, 1995, 1997, and victory for Schumacher and Ferrari in 1999. Superb! Look back for Eddie Irvine, but it's going to be another half minute. There he is, and Eddie can be mighty, mighty proud. He's retained his second place in the World Championship for drivers behind the championship leader, Michael Schumacher, and he's done it the right way. He won in Australia. Eddie Irvine was 5th in Brazil. He didn't finish in Imola, but he's finishing second at Monaco. A Ferrari, as Martin said, a Ferrari whitewash at Monaco. There is the defeated Mika Häkkinen home in 3rd place, 4 points.
Yes, I think Häkkinen really did throw away second place on that oil, but his McLaren Mercedes-Benz engine, of course, made in Northampton in England. I owe them an apology because I said I thought it was Coulthard's engine that failed, and as you heard for yourself, it was his gearbox that failed. But meanwhile, a very victorious Michael Schumacher, and I don't expect to see loads of perspiration as he steps out of that car, because I don't think he's done that much work really this afternoon. And Ferrari formation coming down into what used to be known as the Lowe's hairpin. Stirling Moss would call it the station hairpin, I would imagine, and now it's called the Grand Hotel hairpin.
Jean Todt in the middle, the short man, is congratulating all the Ferrari mechanics who are euphoric, and rightly so, because now Michael Schumacher is 8 points ahead of Eddie Irvine in the World Championship, 12 points ahead of Mika Häkkinen, with 4 of the 16 World Championship races completed. Mika Häkkinen is only 1 point now in 3rd position, ahead of Heinz-Harald Frentzen, and Ralf Schumacher and Fisichella are well down equal 5th. And David Coulthard, of course, has slipped further down the listings. He's only equal 7th. So a lot to do for McLaren, but I have no doubt that they will buckle to and do it. Never give in, but look at that. Formation driving by Ferrari at Monaco, 1st and 2nd. The 2 teammates who get on so well together, and they do, turning synchronized Formula One, with Eddie Irvine taking a marginal lead as they go round the corner down to the Portier.
2 more different characters you will not come across in the same city, let alone in the same race team, but they do seem to complement each other very well. And interesting shot there, Murray.
Hello, girls. Yes, the Ferrari mechanics filter away. And as I was saying, this puts Ferrari in a massively strong position in the Constructors' Championship, with another 16 points to add to the 28 they already had. They are now 24 points clear of McLaren, 44 to 20. Jordan are only 4 points behind McLaren in third position, and Benetton have closed up with Williams. They didn't go ahead as I thought they would, but Jordan will be very, very happy with that. Their objective, I think, was to be fourth in the Constructors' Championship at the end of the season. They're third now. Michael Schumacher in the Ferrari will bound out, I have no doubt, looking as fit as a flea.
Yeah, you always think with Michael it's his first win, don't you? He treats it like it's his first win, and it's his 35th win, just to remind you.
And more than 50% of Michael Schumacher's finishes have been on the podium. First, second or third in 121 Grand Prix. Some people disagree with me when I say that he's the greatest driver now, and I don't think there's any doubt about that at all. Mika Häkkinen runs him very close, but this was a brilliant, brilliant victory by the German for the Italian Ferrari team, and he will now receive the victory from the trophy from His Serene Highness Prince Rainier on the left. That is Prince Rainier's son Albert in the grey suit, and the grandson in between them, Jean Todt, Eddie Irvine on the left. Michael Schumacher, if there's one Grand Prix you want to win, it's Monaco. I remember you were second one year, and a mighty fine drive it was.
Yes, I finished second to Michael, and he made a little mistake in Sandoval and got away with it, sadly, but he beat me fair and square when I was in the McLaren, and he was in the Benetton back in '94, but now a four-time winner, and he's going to slowly, or rather quickly actually, becoming somewhat of a legend as a racing driver.
Mika Häkkinen not looking full of the joys of spring. Third place is good, but not good enough as far as he is concerned with his very high standards. Climbs up to meet Prince Rainier. Mika hasn't got far to go home. I was talking to his wife Aria, as you saw earlier on, and they've now moved to the Rock from the dominant apartment they used to have. Wonderful place to live. Well done, says Jean Todt. Thanks, mate, says Michael. And Mika Häkkinen doesn't say anything. Eddie Irvine on the left. Michael Schumacher, the winner of the Monaco Grand Prix for the fourth time.
Don't get many of those to the pound.
And now the Italian national anthem for Ferrari. As the Italian national anthem fades away and a very happy Michael Schumacher gives us his usual smile, my advice to you is to stay tuned for the opportunity to win a replica Damon Hill Championship helmet later in the show. So on go the caps, now the champagne sprays, and the Ferrari flag flies over Monaco.
I've seen it several times now, but halfway through the German national anthem, Michael nods. Almost, he's something going through his mind, and he just nods, and he's happy about something. Clearly the win, but there's a thought process there. I'd like to know what it is.
Maybe he's saying, I'm a German and this is the German national anthem.
Could be something as simple as that, Murray, but Michael...
Whatever. There's the usual amount of champagne being wasted there. And there he goes. Yes, you're right, that's...
Were those girls in the race or something? Because they seem to be getting a lot of coverage in this podium procedure.
I'm not exactly surprised, I have to say. So, another great Monaco, another great win for Michael Schumacher, another great win for Ferrari. As you see, the top 6, which I've already told you, confirming that Jarno Trulli, Sandro Zanardi and Rubens Barrichello finished 7th, 8th and 9th. Barrichello, of course, notwithstanding the fact that he went out of the race before it actually finished, is classified because he finished within the statutory time in comparison with the race winner. And all those people out of the race, and it hasn't shown the fact that Damon Hill was a very early retirement. It's coming up now. So 22 started, 8 finished, and Michael Schumacher won.
Thank you very much indeed, Murray, and thanks to Martin Brundle as well. Does Michael Schumacher ever even glow? Does he ever perspire? I don't know. Like a stroll in the sunshine for Schumacher. Very much the Monaco maestro once again. As Murray has just mentioned to you, we have a terrific competition coming up after the break. Your chance to win a replica Damon Hill helmet, the helmet that Damon wore when he won the title back in 1996. A lot more to talk about as well from all of us here in Monte Carlo, and we will be right back.
Congratulations, Michael.
Sorry.
A great result. A 78-lap race that was won in the first 50 metres. Talk us through your start.
Yeah, I mean, I was myself a bit surprised. I got very good off the line, but then I saw Mika having wheel spin initially and struggling a bit. And naturally, he tried to move over to make it difficult to me, but he wasn't. He was clever enough not to make it too close. Otherwise, we would have crashed in the first corner, and I slipped by because I had the momentum, the better speed, and for that reason, I could use my strategy, which obviously was on lighter fuel, and pulled my advantage or my gap, which we needed for the pit stop to make everything safe. But mainly up to the first pit stop, it was a hard race, and I was pushing obviously flat out to get my gap, and after that I just drove it home.
We saw on TV your engineers coming in and going out with tyres. How flexible was that strategy? How big was the window in the first stint?
Good question. I mean, obviously we have two cars. They can be moving for two cars in and out and playing different strategies. I don't know. Obviously, which moment they have done what, I can't see that. You see more than about this. But there wasn't so much of flexibility in the strategy, to be honest. Not on my side.
Now, the last race was very controversial because of the problem with back markers and blue flags. How was that here this weekend?
No, compliment to the drivers, to be honest. I mean, they did a very good job. Certainly to me, I don't know how it was to the other guys, but they moved over whenever it was possible for them, and really fair play.
Thank you, Michael. Eddie, second place, congratulations. You've cemented your second place in the championship. But for your strategy, again, how flexible was that? Were you always on a two-stop?
We were obviously, before the race, we have to look at various situations and see what's the best thing to do. And that's where, you know, we've got our race card, and that's Rush. You know, he does a fantastic job in that department. But as in Imola, it worked out well for us today. Mika seemed to hit a bit of traffic earlier on, which I seemed to be able to nip through quite nicely, and I closed the gap. And once I got close to him, I could see I was a lot faster than him, and basically all through the race I was faster than him. But obviously when you're behind, you can't overtake, especially when McLaren goes down the straights. So we had to do it in strategy, which we achieved.
Thanks, Eddie. Mika, I suppose you could say you lost the race in the first 50 metres. How did you see it?
How did I see it? I think Michael said it exactly correctly. I got too much wheel spin in the start and was not able to get out the grid well enough to accelerate first in the first corner. So unfortunate because of that, and that's it about the start.
You probably still would have finished second, but for the problem you had going into Mirabeau at the end of your first stint. What happened there?
Yeah, there was yellow. I think the incident just happened when I went there, and there was some oil on the circuit, and yellow flags, and went to the Mirabeau, and because there was oil, I just lost the back end, and if I would have tried to turn the Mirabeau corner itself, I would have definitely lost the back end and hit the barrier. So I decided to go straight and to get out there as soon as quick as possible and back to the track. But obviously I lost too much time there. Nothing what I could do in that situation.
Does this performance by Ferrari begin to dent your confidence about being able to retain the championship?
I think this start of the season, you know, the points what I scored this Grand Prix is obviously important. Every point is important, like we realized last year. Just have a very intensive testing coming up again. Plan to improve the car engine and to find more speed to be able to maintain the speed.
Thank you, Mika. Michael, we go from the high downforce street circuit of Monaco, where obviously your car was the best to have, to the circuit of Barcelona, where you all test. Do you think you can carry on the advantage?
It might be the case that we're not as competitive or quick as we have been here in Barcelona, because if you see the nature of the cars, then you might say this kind of circuit favors our car a bit more compared to Barcelona. It may favor McLaren more. But on the other side, we have as well an intensive test program up to Barcelona, and we expect some development to happen there. And then we'll see, because naturally we want to have a car which beats the others on all circuits, and we're on a good way, good direction. And if I remember back to Melbourne, there were a lot of people not expecting what we are doing right now. maybe they don't expect other things as well. Us, yes.
So, Michael, after this great win, will it be a wild party tonight?
We'll see. I'd like to, yeah. For sure we have a party, and we'll see whether we can keep the guys here for a little party. Obviously, things move on Wednesday. We're back in Barcelona, so cars have to get fixed for Barcelona. So there can't be a very long party time for the mechanics, which is a shame. I mean, worked so hard again, Imola and here, and not really having time to celebrate. But may we save it up then for the end of the season to have a big celebration.
Thank you, gentlemen. Now, Michael and Mika, a word in your own language, please.
Ja, nachdem es gestern ein bisschen daneben gegangen ist im Qualifying, dürfen wir heute umso glücklicher sein. Ich war das ganze Wochenende eigentlich sehr zuversichtlich, dass wir hier eine gute Chance haben. Und das haben wir offensichtlich jetzt bewiesen. Dem Team, auch wie in Imola, ein Riesenkompliment. Ich meine, das Auto hat perfekt funktioniert, wir hatten keine Probleme und wir haben auch die Starts noch ein bisschen üben können diese Woche im Fiorano und vielleicht hat mir das noch das nötige bisschen gegeben, um beim Start gleich die erste Position zu erringen, die natürlich wichtig war für unsere Strategie, um das Rennen nach Hause zu fahren. Ansonsten wäre es wesentlich schwieriger geworden. Aber so können wir glücklich sein, dass wir es gut nach Hause gefahren haben, Eddie noch den zweiten gemacht hat. Was Schöneres gibt es natürlich in Monte Carlo nicht. Dankeschön.
Thank you, Michael and Mika.
Ehkä mulla ei monta sanaa sanottavana tässä, että tämä on tietysti pettymys, että tuli kolmas sija tästä kilpailusta, koska tuli lähdettyä paalulta ja kaikki mahdollisuudet oli edessä, mutta todellakin autoa ei saatu semmoiseen trimmiin kisassa, mitä oltaisiin haluttu ja todellakin Ferrarit oli täällä nopeampia ja niillä ei ole mitään mahdollisuuksia. Jotenkin nyt pitää odottaa vaan seuraava kilpailu, katsoa mitä tapahtuu ja toivotaan, että jääkiekossa ainakin voitetaan. Sori vaan.
Gentlemen, thank you and well done.
Thank you.